Julie, get out within 3 days. I'll tell you first, it's your fault, you know? Sneaking around, cheating on me. I've already filed for divorce. My husband Ted revealed this with a furious look, calling my in-laws as witnesses. Hearing that I was cheating, my in-laws were clearly bewildered. Ted, is it true that Julie is cheating? What makes you think? Mom, you can't believe such a thing, right? No. Julie is so quiet and serious. Isn't Ted just mistaken? Immediately, my husband took out his smartphone, opened the images, and showed them. My in-laws' eyes widened. I followed Julie and took pictures, and caught her meeting with a man. Hey, Julie. Did you think I knew nothing? I will never forgive you. It's true that I met a man without telling my husband, so the pictures must be real. However, my husband missed something crucial. Watching the situation, I laughed inside. Now, this ends the conversation. Betraying dad and mom carries a heavy weight. As I said, leave within 3 days. No, I'll leave in 3 minutes. I'm keeping your lover waiting. What? My husband and in-laws looked confused. You too, don't think you'll get away with betraying the family. Having made up my mind, I launched my counterattack. The mention of my lover caused the room to fall silent. A few seconds later, my in-laws were the first to speak. Ted, what does she mean by lover? Doesn't sound like she's joking, does it? No, both of you, calm down. Julie is just making desperate excuses. She's lying because she doesn't want to pay alimony. There's no way I have a lover, Dad, you and Mom know that, right? As usual, my husband hid his true nature while trying to calm down my in-laws. I've seen this scene many times, but today it seems a little different because there was a hint of panic in his eyes. He probably never imagined that I would fight back. Not wanting to reveal his unease, my husband glared at me. Julie! Enough already! Don't cause trouble until the very end. We won't be fooled by your lies. I'm not trying to deceive anyone. And it doesn't matter if you don't believe me. I'm just telling the plain truth. My assertive response, from someone usually seen as quiet and serious, left my husband and in-laws visibly bewildered. Still glaring at me, my husband stepped closer with an even sharper gaze. Show proof, show the proof. If you're going to talk like that, you must have something to show for it. Words are cheap. Convince us. My in-laws watched our exchange uneasily. They were visibly skeptical, and it was understandable. Ted was seen as hardworking, respected, and kind to his wife. So, it's only natural to think he doesn't have a lover, if you don't know the truth. I silently stood up and went to my room. When I returned, I was holding a large cardboard box. Dad, Mom, there's something I've been hiding. Could you look inside this box? This is a bunch of pens and some kind of notes? But there's a lot of notes. 4 o'clock, 7 o'clock, midnight. Most of these notes have times written on them. Julie, what is this? My in-laws looked puzzled at the notes I showed them, while my husband looked uncomfortable. He seemed surprised that I had kept these notes. Not missing his expression, I picked up a pen and began to explain. These notes contain instructions from my husband. I prepared meals and baths at the specified times like 4, 7, and midnight. The instructions are also written on the back of each note. It's true, it's written here. Ted, why were you doing this? My husband couldn't answer his father's question, for obvious reasons. Answering about these notes would reveal his true nature. To corner him further, I got to the point. To put it bluntly, these notes were used to control me. If I was even a second late, Ted would yell at me. Sometimes he even raised his hand. Mom, you said I was quiet and serious, but the truth is I was too scared to say anything because of Ted. Yelled at you? Raised his hand? Ted. You. At that moment, my husband, who had been silent, cut in. I would never do such a thing. Julie, you're really something. Making up these fake notes. Dad, Mom. Don't believe her. Clearly panicking, but still putting on an act, my husband continued. Ignoring him, I kept speaking. What I want to say here is that Ted is lying to hide his true nature. He managed to submit the divorce papers because he threatened me to sign them. You know what will happen if you resist, right? Keep this from our parents, he said. Why did he go to such lengths to force a divorce? Because he has a lover and wanted to discard me. So, you're saying Ted divorced you without your consent? My in-laws scowled and looked at my husband. Ted let out an exaggerated sigh and said, Come on, words are cheap, aren't they? Your notes aren't proof. I asked for proof of your cheating. You still don't have any, do you? As soon as my husband said that, I held up the pen I was holding and clicked it. Immediately, my husband and in-laws were speechless. Julie, sign the divorce papers now. You know what will happen if you resist, right? Keep this from our parents, understood? It was an audio recording of my husband threatening me. No one immediately realized why the pen was playing audio. This pen is a voice recorder. It's commercially available, so anyone can get one. It's often used to gather evidence of harassment or domestic violence. By the way, I knew that Ted was preparing the divorce papers. That's why I could use this pen-shaped voice recorder without raising any suspicion. You can't use a pencil or a mechanical pencil for signing divorce papers, after all. My husband and in-laws were stunned. I played another recording. You useless wife. I'm supporting you, so don't complain. I can replace you anytime. Various abusive words were recorded. The sound of breaking dishes could be heard, suggesting that Ted had raised his hand against me. Ted. I've endured it all along. I endured and endured, gathering evidence. Evidence of DV and infidelity. Unfortunately, I know everything. Didn't I just say I was keeping your lover waiting? That means I know who you're cheating with. So, Ted was lying? I don't want to believe it, but if there's evidence, I have no choice. How could you treat Julie so terribly? Ted pretended to be kind to Julie and deceived us too. Ted, how are you going to take responsibility? Their icy glares pierced my husband. He averted his eyes but soon spoke. Wait. I may have been harsh at times, but I didn't intend to commit DV. I was just frustrated because things weren't going well. I'm sorry for that. But I don't know anything about a lover. I don't know, I swear. Even with evidence, he still wouldn't admit it. His pathetic excuses were only tightening the noose around his neck. He's truly a foolish man. However, his frantic state meant my counterattack was effective, and I had anticipated his denial. You said you don't know, right? There's no taking it back now. Shall we all go see Ted's lover? All of us, are we going to? Won't it cause trouble? No, there's no problem. In fact, I've informed everyone from the start. Nothing will be resolved if we argue here. Seeing is believing, as they say. Plus, it's within walking distance. Hearing this, my in-laws hesitantly prepared to leave. My husband, now sweating profusely, looked around nervously, seeking a way out. But he couldn't escape and reluctantly got up. His face grew paler, but his glare at me remained sharp. I wasn't backing down. Now the real battle begins. I steeled myself. Together, we left the house and headed to the lover's place. 5 minutes later, we arrived at a nearby apartment building. We took the elevator and pressed the button for the 5th floor. My in-laws exchanged glances as if realizing something. They had visited this place before and knew who lived there, hence their confusion. Here we are. A few seconds after pressing the intercom, footsteps approached, and a woman peeked out from the door. Welcome, Julie, and everyone. So, it was you. No way. How did this happen? My in-laws, having already suspected, were shocked to face reality. We had arrived at my sister Maddie's apartment. My husband had been cheating with my sister. Boldly, just 5 minutes from our home. Needless to say, my in-laws were dumbfounded. In the tense atmosphere, we entered my sister's home. My husband hid behind my in-laws, trying not to meet my sister's gaze. I inwardly smirked at his futile attempt to hide now. In the strained silence, my husband seemed to be trembling slightly. My father-in-law, as if making a decision, asked my sister. Maddie, answer honestly. Julie said this is where Ted's lover lives. Is it true that you've been cheating with our son? My sister glanced at my husband, looking uncomfortable and avoiding eye contact. My husband gave her a pleading look, hoping she'd cover for him. But she remained silent, not speaking up. My mother-in-law urged her. Julie told us. You agreed to our visit today, right? That means you're admitting to the affair, isn't it? Say something. My sister remained silent, looking down. After a while, she raised her head as if making up her mind. She knelt and began to apologize fervently. I'm very sorry. I knew it was wrong, but I fell in love with Ted. I took my sister's husband. Unlike my husband, my sister admitted everything. She did so because I had confronted her with the evidence beforehand. I had anticipated my husband would deny even with proof, so I turned my focus on my sister to make her a witness. With my sister's full admission, my in-laws completely sided with me. Ted, you said you didn't know anything about a lover. And yet, you're cheating with your wife's sister? Do you have any idea how foolish that is? I can't believe it. Did you ever think about Julie's feelings? This is a tremendous betrayal. The intensity in the room was so strong that my husband's shoulders shook. It was the moment his true nature was completely exposed. He had no choice but to admit everything and apologize. He must have known this, but still, he refused to acknowledge it. Maddie and I went out together, okay? I apologize for keeping it from Julie, but we were never in a romantic relationship. I was just being friendly with Julie's sister. Do you expect us to believe that now? Maddie knelt and admitted to the affair. Are you saying she's lying? My husband flinched, his face showing he hadn't anticipated my counterattack and was almost defenseless. Trying to make excuses couldn't sway my in-laws, so he turned his anger towards me. Julie, how low can you go? You pressured Maddie into confessing, didn't you? And you brought our parents to force her to say she did it, even if she didn't. I gathered evidence that anyone can see. You're the one being deceitful. Trying to cover up your affair now is ridiculous. Try saying the same thing after seeing this. I took out a thick envelope from my bag and handed it to my husband. When he opened it, his eyes widened in shock. A private investigator's report. When did you? When you started tailing me to gather dirt. I knew you were following me for a long time. But I let you. You mistook the investigator for my lover. That's when I collected evidence. My husband hastily checked his phone for the images he had taken of me. This guy was the investigator? He was sympathetic and listened to me. It might have seemed friendly to you, but you were wrong. You were happy thinking you had something on me, weren't you? You planned to use it to divorce me and marry my sister, didn't you? I've already heard everything from Maddie, so making excuses is useless. Maddie, you told her that much? My husband looked at my sister with resentment. Trembling, she began to speak the truth. I never intended to force a divorce. I know it sounds like an excuse now, but I never wanted to ruin my sister's family. But Ted was serious about marrying me. He said everything will be fine if Julie is out of the picture, and I was too scared to stop him. I didn't know Ted's true nature. Although my sister's affair with my husband was unforgivable, she had also been threatened by him. The fact that Ted hurt everyone around him purely for his selfish desires deeply shocked my in-laws. Maddie, I'm sorry, but we can't defend you. You betrayed Julie by having an affair. But if Ted threatened you, we apologize. We failed to see Ted's true nature, even as his parents. It's truly shameful. My in-laws apologized to my sister. My sister herself regrets having made a mistake, and she probably feels that her in-laws have nothing to apologize for. Seeing my sister in such a state left me with mixed feelings. My sister and I had no parents and had supported each other since childhood. After I got married, we lived separately, and I missed her. So I was happy when she moved to an apartment nearby. But I never imagined it would lead to an affair with my husband. Looking back, I might have seen the signs earlier. I could have suspected the affair when Ted started his abusive behavior. But I denied that possibility, hiding from reality. Regardless of how it happened, Ted and Maddie betrayed the family. That's an undeniable fact. Ted, you'll take responsibility. That's all you can do now. My husband looked up at the ceiling, seemingly searching for words of apology. But the next moment, he shouted something unbelievable. You useless trash wife. You played this well. I'll admit to the affair and abuse, but I won't take responsibility for you. Why should I? You're just my slave, you can't live alone without me. Ted. How could you? Your mother and I didn't raise you this way. You can work comfortably because Julie supports you. Don't you have any gratitude? Is it all about you? Ted told me to keep quiet, but Julie said, I want to support Ted as a housewife and fulfill his wishes. Julie didn't say it out loud, but she showed it through her actions. You took advantage of that. I don't know anything about that. Julie never said anything important directly. I don't love Julie. It was convenient to be married as a working adult. I can replace her anytime. I'll discard her when she's no longer needed. No longer hiding his true nature, my husband spewed his true feelings. This was a side of him I couldn't have imagined during our courtship or early marriage. I thought my husband had changed, but it seems he was always like this. Everyone but my husband froze as if time had stopped. He snorted and tried to leave the room. Here I calmly offered my final advice. Say what you want about me. But apologize to your parents. Otherwise, you'll regret it. I can live on my own, unlike you. I don't need my parents, so there's no need to apologize. You better not regret divorcing me when you can't make it on your own. Leaving only his laughter, my husband walked out. No one tried to stop him. Everyone realized it was useless to say anything more to him. Julie. We should have believed you from the start. We're really sorry. It may not be enough, but we apologize. We're cutting ties with our son. But we'll make sure he takes responsibility, so please wait until then. I'm sorry, Julie. My reckless actions led to this mess. I know I have no right to say this, but I'll help you in any way I can. They all looked apologetic at the same time, but I shook my head slightly and responded. It's okay, there's nothing to worry about. Ted will definitely regret this. I can't forgive you easily, Maddie, but I didn't see Ted's true nature before marrying him. In a way, I'm thankful you helped me see it. My prophetic words left them puzzled. But this was no prophecy, it was a certainty. Ted didn't know, but I knew everything. A few days later, I was waiting for that day to come, and it arrived sooner than expected. Ted sent me a frantic email, so I told him to come to my in-laws' house and prepared for his arrival. Sure enough, he burst in with a panicked expression. Help me! I don't know why, but men are chasing me, and it's not just one. They're ambushing me every day. I see, it happened sooner than I thought. All those men were people you deceived. What? I don't know those guys. Do you know something about this? It's strange, you should have an idea. You pretended to be someone else and scammed those women for money. What? How did you find out? I discovered this after I started using a voice recorder to gather evidence of domestic violence. The pen-shaped recorder I bought could record continuously for 35 hours. I left it at home, and it recorded a conversation Ted had with one of his scam victims. While I initially hired a private investigator to look into Ted and Maddie's affair, it also revealed Ted's other scams. I contacted the women Ted had deceived. I exposed Ted's true nature to all of them, letting them know they had been scammed. Previously, Ted told me, "People like you, Julie, can be replaced easily." I realized that the replacements he referred to were the women he scammed, and I was utterly disgusted by his foolishness. By the way, the men chasing Ted are the husbands of the women he scammed. It's quite a mess on their end, too. Julie, you went that far? You could have been sued for that. Maybe. But I was prepared for that risk. I couldn't forgive you for betraying our family to satisfy your desires. Ted, there are no replacements for people. You can't just throw someone away when you don't need them. The world doesn't revolve around you. I said firmly, looking straight at him, and he began to tremble and hang his head. He seemed more cornered than I had expected. My in-laws sighed beside me. Then, Ted got on his knees and began begging his parents. "Dad, Mom, please. Hide me. Some of the guys chasing me are really dangerous. I don't know what they'll do to me. We're family, help me." Ted, I remember this clearly. I can live on my own, I don't need parents. You haven't forgotten, have you? You're only thinking about yourself until the very end. You trampled on Julie's feelings, and now that you're in trouble, you change your tune. Life isn't that easy. I didn't mean it like that. I can't live without Dad, Mom, and Julie. As soon as Ted said that, I held up the pen and silently pressured him. Everything from that day is recorded. Ted quickly realized and started sweating profusely. I was wrong. I admit it, please, someone help me. His words of regret echoed in vain, and no one reached out to help him. Ted dragged himself out of my in-laws' house. Later, Ted faced the worst outcome. He couldn't go to work or stay in town to escape the men chasing him. He vanished from our hometown. However, the husbands of the scammed women relentlessly pursued him. I received desperate emails from Ted multiple times, but I neither helped nor blocked him, only watching. Ted even sought help from the women he had scammed, but naturally, no one helped him. To them, Ted was just a tool to fulfill their needs, a disposable substitute. It's a fitting end. It's too late for regrets, and he got what he deserved. I whispered he should receive his due punishment. Meanwhile, my sister moved away and started a new life. She returns occasionally, bowing her head in apology each time. Still, I can't forgive her easily. Trust once lost isn't easily regained. But if a day comes when we can laugh together like we used to, that's all I hope for now.